This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Finland's president and prime minister announced their support Thursday for Finland to join NATO, ending decades of neutrality. The leaders called on Finland to apply for NATO membership without delay. Finland shares an 830-mile border with Russia. Sweden's also expected to join Finland in seeking NATO membership, something few discussed prior to Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Russia responded to the news by threatening to take retaliatory steps in order to stop what it calls threats to its national security. The New York Times reports the addition of Finland and Sweden to NATO increases the prospects of a broader war between Russia and the West. We go now to Berlin, Germany, where we're joined by Rainer Braun, the executive director of the International Peace Bureau, German peace activist, historian, author who's campaigned for years against NATO. Can you talk about this decision made by Finland's president and prime minister and the significance of this? It looks like Sweden is, at their side in this.
It's again a significant change in the security system in Europe. Above all and first, it is a break of a contract. Finland has a contract with Russia. First contract is from 1948, the second one and the new one from 1992, which describe neutrality and friendship between Finland and Russia as the background of their common relations. And Finland has not cancelled these treaties, so they are going against this treaty, which is quite a legal action they are doing. The second point is the relations between Central Europe or NATO and Russia by the military spending is about 15-1 up to now. Now it will be 17 or 18-1. And it is obviously that Russia will react. So we have again a continuation of the escalation spiral in the center of Europe. And this is not peaceful. What should be the next? Should be the next Moldavia and Georgia? Should be the next that Kazakhstan or Uzbekistan will join NATO? It will be the next Japan. And what are the reactions of Russia? They will bring more nuclear weapons to the border of Poland and the Baltic countries. They will enlarge their military spending. Peoples on both sides will suffer. So it is definitely a step absolutely on the wrong direction, which is definitely not helpful for coming to a new security architecture after hopefully ending so quick as possible the war in Ukraine. What we need are negotiations. And for Finland, which is a history in neutrality, Finland was a country of the OSCE and the KSCE agreements. There was a meeting in Helsinki. This time will be over. Finland will give up his independent, active position, bringing East and West together, only for joining NATO, only for being a very small part in the NATO architecture. This is really an unpolitical and unsecurity step for a common security system in Europe.
Can you talk about the letter that you helped co-write, both to President Putin and President Zelensky of Ukraine, calling for a ceasefire?
For us was May 9th, a historical day, which made Europe free from fascism. And the countries which bring the most victims were the Soviet Union, which include Russia and Ukraine. So our letter was to say, when you make your speeches on the 8th or the 9th of May, after these speeches, you should come together and negotiate for peace in the tradition of the victory about the fascist system. And you should think about ways how you can combine again the people of these two countries, which have so many things in common, which have so many things in a common history. There's so many things together in the languages, in the agriculture system, in the treaties, in educational system, and we have to overcome this horrible split between these two countries. And the first point which we're calling for was and is ceasefire. The 8th and the 9th of May passed. It is a pity that we could not start with the negotiations, but we will continue working on ceasefire. And I think we need more international pressure for these negotiations. And for me, the Pope was sending a very interesting and very hopeful sign for starting these negotiations. I hope other political leaders in the world, maybe Macron, maybe Xi from China, will follow to bring these two countries, Russia and Ukraine, at the same table for negotiating.
Can you explain what the peace summit you and a number of other groups are planning in June in Spain?
You know, there is a NATO summit. And NATO is the biggest military alliance in the world. NATO is the biggest military spender. 60% of the whole money which is spending worldwide is spending by the NATO countries. So in these NATO summit will send signs in the absolutely wrong direction. More militarization, more actions against Russia and China, more encircling of these two countries. And we want to protest and convince more parts of the public that this is the wrong way. This is the way in the catastrophe. This is the way in a new nuclear war, which will be the final nuclear war. We cannot do these kind of politics when you want to solve the climate problem, when we want to overcome hunger. Hunger becomes much stronger since we have the Ukrainian war. How should these people in Africa survive when there are no corpses any longer coming from Ukraine and Russia? So we want to say signs that we need an alternative politics. So our summit is a summit for making propaganda and actions for a policy of common security, which on the background says we have to take into account the security interests of all countries, and we need nationally and internationally a process of disarmament. It is not possible to spend any longer $2 trillion of US dollars for military purposes when people are suffering and when we do not know how to solve the climate problems.
Well, Rainer Braun, we want to thank you for being with us, Executive Director of the International Peace Bureau, German peace activist, historian, and author who's campaigned against a U.S. air base in Ramstein and also against NATO. That does it for our broadcast. Democracy Now! Is produced with Renee Feltz, Mike Burke, Dina Guzder, Messiah Rhodes, Noreen Sheikh, Maria Terracena, Tammy Warnoff, Camille Baker, Trina Nadura, Sam Alkoff, Tamari Studio, John Hamilton, Rabbi Karen Honey, Masood, Mary Conlon, Juan Carlos Davila. Our executive director is Julie Crosby. Special thanks to Becca Staley, John Randolph, Paul Powell, Mike DeFilippo, Miguel Noguera, Hugh Grant, Dennis Moynihan, David Pruden, Dennis McCormick. I'll be moderating a panel on voices beyond the borders at the PEN America Global Festival here in New York. Check our website at democracynow.org. It's Saturday at the Judson Church. Stay